The last time federal judge Walter Nixon stood inside a courtroom, it was not to preside over a trial, but to stand trial himself. Nixon was accused of attempting to sway authorities to drop marijuana smuggling charges against the son of Nixon's longtime friend. In exchange for getting the charges dropped, Nixon was allegedly promised oil and gas royalties from his friend's business. Nixon was convicted of perjury for lying to the grand jury. Declaring his innocence from behind bars, Nixon refused to give up his judicial commission. As a result, the House of Representatives was forced to begin impeachment proceedings against him. The impeachment power in the Constitution is divided between the House and the Senate. The House acts as the prosecutor, and the Senate acts as the jury. In Nixon's case, the House presented 3 articles of impeachment to the Senate. The Senate then heard evidence against Nixon and convicted him. Nixon was unhappy with how his impeachment trial went. In an ordinary trial, the jury hears all of the evidence firsthand. But the senators, pressed for time, instead appointed a committee to hear the evidence. That committee then presented the full Senate with a complete transcript of the hearing, along with a report summarizing the evidence. Based on that report, the full Senate voted to convict. After his impeachment, Nixon sued the United States, arguing that the Senate violated Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6 of the Constitution, also known as the Impeachment Trial Clause. Nixon objected to the Senate's appointment of a committee to conduct the evidentiary hearing, arguing that the Impeachment Trial Clause required the entire Senate to hear the evidence firsthand. The district court held that Nixon's claim presented a non-justiciable political question and dismissed the case. The Court of Appeals agreed. The question for the United States Supreme Court was whether reviewing the Senate's impeachment proceedings presented a non-justiciable political question. The court held that review of impeachment proceedings is a non-justiciable political question. This is because the impeachment power is constitutionally reserved to the political branches of government. Additionally, the court found no judicially manageable standards for resolving the dispute. Chief Justice Rehnquist, writing for the court, determined that the word sole in the impeachment trial clause gives the Senate complete discretion to conduct impeachment proceedings. This includes the authority to make the rules that govern impeachment procedure. The court also determined that the word try in the impeachment trial clause is not precise enough for judicial application. The word is not defined in the Constitution, and contemporary dictionaries indicate that it can mean anything from a judicial trial to a simple investigation. As a result, the court concluded that there were no judicially manageable standards for determining how the Senate must conduct an impeachment. The court affirmed the Court of Appeals and ordered Nixon's claim to be dismissed. Justice Stevens wrote a concurring opinion, arguing that the framers deliberately gave complete impeachment power to the legislative branch. Therefore, any interference from the judiciary would be inappropriate. Justice White concurred in judgment, but disagreed with the majority that the case presented a non-justiciable question. White argued that the word sole in the impeachment trial clause doesn't mean that the Senate is the exclusive authority on impeachment. Rather, White reasoned that the framers used the term to emphasize the distinct authority of the House to prosecute impeachments and the distinct authority of the Senate to try impeachments. In addition, White argued that the word try isn't ambiguous. Judges, who are experts at trying cases, are well situated to come up with standards to determine whether Nixon had been properly tried. Although White disagreed with the majority on the political question issue, he agreed with the ultimate outcome because Nixon's impeachment trial was constitutionally proper. Justice Souter also concurred in judgment. Souter argued that the judiciary should be allowed to review the Senate's impeachment determination in extreme cases. Souter thought judicial oversight would be needed if the Senate grossly abused its discretion. For example, the Senate might try deciding the outcome with a coin toss. In that situation, the judiciary would need to intervene. Nixon versus United States further developed the political question doctrine by emphasizing the importance of textual analysis.